I met Rachel at a business conference in Austin, and she walked into the room like she owned every square inch of it. She had a sharp suit, a sharper smile, and a laugh that made strangers stop mid-conversation to listen. We started talking by the coffee station, and the conversation moved from logistics to travel to bad first jobs before we knew it. Her energy felt like a spotlight, and I liked standing in it for once, even if just for a night. We traded numbers, and the texts were quick and easy, the kind that slide into late-night FaceTimes without awkward pauses. Within weeks, she was spending weekends at my apartment, and my life adjusted to include her routines and small habits. She kept her nights for freelance work, and her days were hours, folding into a rhythm that felt comfortable and real. We learned how to share space, which plates were hers, which shirts she never touched, how to divide chores without keeping score. She cooked when I worked late, and I handled the bills, which felt practical and fair in a way that made both of us relax. We joked about future dogs and vacation plans, and the small domestic things that become proof of a life in sync. The first year of marriage felt like a soft landing, easy and warm, with a backyard wedding and a few trusted friends. We picked a dog together, a stubborn mutt who preferred my couch but loved her walks at dawn. Her freelance gigs picked up, and she called me from coffee shops to celebrate small wins as if they were ours to share. We traveled a little, more for cheap flights than for bucket lists, but the days away felt like investments in memory. There were evenings when we sat on the porch with cold beers and confessed stupid fears until we laughed them small and manageable. Her confidence became part of our furniture, something I admired and relied on without thinking about it much. I proposed quietly on a weekend trip, and she cried and called her mom and said yes like it was both a surprise and an inevitability. We moved through milestones with the kind of speed that feels right when two people believe in the story they are writing. Neighbors thought we were the practical couple, not flashy but steady, the kind of partnership people assume will last. I liked that steadiness because my work demanded unpredictability, and having a calm base at home kept me honest. We settled into rituals that felt like anchors: grocery runs, gym slots, Sunday phone calls with her parents about nothing. Sometimes we bickered about small things, like how clean the garage looked or who forgot to schedule the oil change, but we moved past it. Her social feed was a mix of client wins and weekend brunches, and I liked watching her build a public version of success. There was a time when I trusted the silence between us as much as the laughter, certain that the quiet meant stability, not distance. In those early years, I believed that she and I were building something durable, something that would survive bad days and boring bills. The change started quietly, like a draft sneaking in through a door I thought was closed. Rachel began staying up later, scrolling endlessly, posting quotes about independence and self-love. At first, I brushed it off, thinking she just needed something to fill her nights while I slept early for work. Then came the outfits: tighter dresses, higher heels, perfume that lingered long after she left the room. She called it networking, said clients liked seeing confidence, but I knew the difference between work and performance. She laughed louder at her phone, typed faster, and smiled at texts she never mentioned out loud. When I asked who she was chatting with, she shrugged and said it was just Megan or a client. The explanations came too easily, too rehearsed, like lines she'd practiced in front of a mirror. Our dinners got quieter. Her plate would sit half-finished, while she stared at something invisible just over my shoulder. She used to ask about my day. Now she scrolled while nodding absently, pretending to listen. I stopped reaching for her hand on the couch, because she'd flinch like touch had become an interruption. Nights grew longer. She'd leave for the gym at 8 and come home past 11, smelling like mint and some man's cologne. I started keeping count, not out of paranoia but pattern. And the pattern didn't lie. She'd shower immediately. No eye contact, no words, like washing away the truth before it could speak. I didn't accuse her. Accusations give liars something to deny. Instead, I memorized her habits, her roots, the tone of her laugh when she lied. Her phone became a vault. Notifications vanished as fast as they appeared. She changed her passcode and claimed it was for client privacy. I'd been in logistics for 10 years. There's no privacy clause that requires a new password every week. The bed felt colder, even when she slept beside me. I'd wake up to her turned away, scrolling under the blanket, the blue light painting her face like guilt. She said she was tired, always tired, but she never slept. When I tried to talk, she flipped the script, asking why I didn't support her dreams. I wasn't losing an argument. I was losing a person who'd already left, but didn't have the decency to walk out. Megan started showing up more often, the best friend with too many opinions and too little respect. She whispered poison disguised as empowerment, telling Rachel she deserved excitement, deserved more. I wasn't blind. I saw how easily women like Megan feed chaos into quiet homes. 3 months later, our conversations were logistics, not love who'd buy groceries, who'd feed the dog. We lived in the same house, but spoke like neighbors forced to share a fence. She saved her warmth for guests, smiling, holding my hand, playing perfect for the crowd. I played along, patient and silent. Because by then, I wasn't trying to save the marriage anymore. I was preparing for the autopsy. The barbecue started like any normal Saturday. Sun high, grass trimmed, music humming through cheap speakers. I spent the morning marinating ribs and checking the grill, pretending the day was just another summer gathering. Rachel seemed excited, moving fast around the kitchen, smiling too hard, drinking before noon. She said it would be good for us to host again, to show we're still fun. I knew better. The guest list was her world. Coworkers, her parents, a few neighbors, and of course, Megan. By 3 o'clock, the backyard was full of chatter, smoke, and clinking bottles. I stood by the grill, flipping meat, watching her float between groups like the queen of a party I didn't belong to. She laughed too loudly at Megan's jokes, touched people's arms when she spoke, always looking for eyes to follow her. Megan strutted over with a drink, leaned in, and said something meant to sound casual but carried poison. Don't let him boss you around today. This is your show. Rachel grinned and answered, "Oh, don't worry. He knows who's in charge." The laughter that followed burned hotter than the coals under my ribs. I didn't flinch. Didn't look up. I just flipped another burger and let their voices echo in the background. Later, she disappeared inside and came back in a white sundress and wedges, hair redone, full makeup. For a backyard cookout. Her mom said she looked radiant. Her dad said nothing, just chewed slower. By 5, everyone was buzzed and loud, the kind of noise that hides tension. Someone suggested toasts. Her cousin went first, then Megan, raising her glass to strong women who never settle. I gave a polite thanks for everyone coming. Short, clean, nothing special. Then Rachel said she wanted to say a few words. She stepped onto the deck, glass raised, smile wide and sharp. I just want to thank everyone for being here, for this beautiful home, and for my husband who tries his best every day. The crowd clapped, a few people cheered. Then she twisted the knife. Even if he can't figure out the dishwasher, or other things that require stamina. Half the backyard erupted in laughter. Her friends howled. Her mom laughed, then covered her mouth. Her dad stared at the ground. I just watched her. She basked in it, like she'd just won something. That moment was the last time I saw her as my wife. I smiled, nodded once and walked inside. Stayed there 20 minutes, rinsing dishes that didn't need cleaning. When I came back, I told Megan to grab ice from the garage freezer, just to move her away. Rachel followed her, clueless. The party carried on, but the air had shifted. Every laugh sounded forced. Every glance found me, waiting for a reaction. There wasn't one. Because I'd already decided what would come next. You don't fight humiliation with anger. You erase the person who caused it. Completely. 3 nights after the barbecue, Rachel tried to act like nothing had happened. She kissed my cheek, called me babe, and asked what I wanted for dinner. I told her I was thinking of starting my own company, something independent, something big. Her eyes lit up like I just handed her a dream to decorate. She said she could help with branding, marketing, social media, all the things she thought she was great at. Perfect. I stayed up late, that night building a website for a company that didn't exist. EcoFreight Solutions, LLC. I bought a domain, wrote fake testimonials, even made a LinkedIn page for a pretend mentor. The next morning, I showed it to her. She gasped, proud, impressed, eager to belong to something important. She said it looked so real. It was. Because every lie becomes real when the person wants to believe it. Over the next few weeks, she started calling it our project. She designed logos, wrote taglines, filled notebooks with color palettes and slogans. I praised her for every bad idea. She felt powerful again, needed, respected. Then came the money talk. I told her I needed funding to register the business and secure suppliers. She offered before I finished the sentence. She said she'd put in her savings, sell her old jewelry, cash out an old retirement account. $55,000. I pretended to hesitate, said I didn't want to pressure her. That only made her push harder. She transferred the money into the new business account I opened, in my name only. She never asked to see the documents. She just smiled and said, "I trust you." Those words would echo for weeks. While she played businesswoman, I created a new game. A fake Instagram account. Evan Miles. A freelance travel photographer from Colorado. Clean photos, quiet charm, just enough mystery to feel dangerous. I followed her. She followed back within a day. I sent a message. "Hey, not trying to be weird, but your smile looks like trouble." She replied with a laughing emoji. Game on. Within a week, she was flirting. Within 2, she was confiding. She told Evan that her husband didn't understand her, that she felt unseen. She told him she wanted to feel alive again. I saved everything. Screenshots, voice notes, photos. Every digital confession, stacked neatly in a folder titled Evidence. At home, she still called me love, still kissed me goodnight, never realizing she was talking to me twice. One husband in flesh, one in fantasy. Both watching her dig her own grave. I started staging investor emails to make the company look alive. She printed business cards. Rachel Walker, Creative Director, EcoFreight Solutions. 500 copies. $58,000 gone. And she still thought she was winning. I didn't need revenge yet. I was still building the stage. The final act would come when she looked for her dream man and found only herself. It took 6 weeks for everything to line up exactly how I wanted. Rachel was fully invested, emotionally and financially. She spent her days polishing fake investor decks and pitching ideas to herself in the mirror. Every night she texted Evan, the man she thought understood her better than anyone. I watched her type, laugh, blush, and whisper into her phone while lying 3 feet away from me. She called him her safe space, said he made her feel seen, alive, special. She told him she didn't love her husband anymore, that she felt trapped in a life that wasn't hers. I saved every word. Every sentence was a nail, and she was building her own coffin with them. Then I set the final trap. I told her that Evan wanted to invest in our company. She nearly cried from excitement, said it was fate, said the universe was aligning. I gave her a time and an address for a meeting with potential partners. It was an abandoned retail space on the edge of town, dusty and padlocked. She dressed up like she was walking into her future. Blazer, heels, full makeup, trembling hands. When she arrived, she called me first, said she was nervous but ready. I didn't answer. Then she texted Evan, "I'm here." I waited a few seconds before replying from his account. You really thought I didn't know who you were talking about this whole time. I followed it with screenshots. Dozens of them. Her messages, her voice notes, her pictures. One by one, every piece of the life she'd been living in secret. Then I blocked her. Silence. 10 minutes later, the first call came. Then another. 27 in total. I didn't answer a single one. She texted, begged, cursed, cried through the screen. By the time I packed my bag, she was unraveling, losing control of the narrative she thought she owned. I drove 3 hours north and checked into a small motel under a fake name. No phone, no trace. Just quiet. I spent those 72 hours finalizing the legal prep, every document, every screenshot sorted and labeled. Her investments, her confessions, her betrayal, all packaged like evidence in a courtroom drama. By the time I came back, I was ready. My lawyer didn't even blink when I told him everything. He said it was airtight. We filed for divorce the next morning. Vault-based. Emotional infidelity and financial misconduct. While she called and cried, I was moving assets, closing accounts, securing everything in my name. Her money sat safe, untouchable, in a protected account she would never see again. The day the papers were served, she stood on our porch in tears, clutching a manila envelope she never expected. Inside were divorce papers, screenshots, and a note that said only one line. It's not a new start, Rachel. It's a reset without the assets. That was the last text she ever got from me. The rest of the story belonged to the silence that followed. Rachel tried to call me for days after the papers landed on the porch. Every voicemail sounded like a different version of her, angry, begging, broken. I didn't respond. By the time she realized I was gone for good, my lawyer had already filed everything in court. Texas law is simple when you have proof, and I had plenty. Messages, bank transfers, voice notes, photos, all time-stamped, all clean. My lawyer flipped through them like a deck of cards, expressionless, professional. He said one word after finishing, solid. We filed for fault-based divorce under emotional infidelity and financial misconduct. Rachel's entire empire of lies was now legal evidence. I froze our joint accounts before she could touch $1. Everything she invested into the fake company was documented under my name. She wasn't a partner. She was a voluntary contributor. She never read a single contract. She never asked for receipts. Ignorance isn't innocence. When she finally hired a lawyer, their strategy was weak, denial and sympathy. They claimed the screenshots were fabricated, that no real cheating occurred. They said she was manipulated emotionally, that I took advantage of her trust. My lawyer handed over the folder labeled proof. Inside were her own words, her voice calling Evan her escape, her dream. There were photos she sent, jokes she made about me, texts saying she felt trapped. Then came the business records, signed transfers, bank statements, confirmation emails. All written in her tone, all voluntary. Her lawyer's face changed halfway through the file. The silence in that room was its own verdict. 2 weeks later, the court hearing began. Rachel looked hollow, dressed like she hadn't slept in days. She tried to meet my eyes, but I stayed still. The judge read the evidence quietly, flipping through pages that spelled her downfall. In less than an hour, the decision was clear. I kept the house, the truck, the dog, and every asset tied to my name. No spousal support. No shared property. Just her personal belongings and the weight of her mistakes. When the judge ended the session, I stood, calm and empty. Rachel cried, called it cruelty, said I'd ruined her life over a misunderstanding. I didn't argue. I handed her a small envelope before walking out. Inside was a USB drive and a note. This was never revenge. It was a lesson in respect. She didn't open it there. She just held it, shaking, whispering my name like it could undo everything. But it couldn't. By the next morning, she was out of the house. I changed the locks, scrubbed her name from every file, every document, every login. The fake company domain was sold, the accounts closed, the story sealed. Rachel went back to her parents. I went back to my life. And for the first time in years, the house finally felt quiet, not empty, just clean. Months passed before I saw her again. I was running errands downtown when I spotted her through a boutique window. Rachel was behind the counter, folding scarves, smiling at strangers who didn't know her story. Her hair was shorter, her eyes duller, but the pride was gone. When she saw me, she froze. For a second, I saw the woman I used to know, confident, sure, untouchable. Then it vanished. She walked outside slowly, hands trembling, voice small. "I'm really sorry," she said. "I was stupid, I hurt you. Can we start over?" The world went quiet for a heartbeat. I looked at her, really looked, and realized I felt nothing. No anger. No love. Just the peace that comes when a storm finally burns itself out. I took a breath and said, "Yeah, that's gonna be a no." Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but no words came. I turned, walked away, and didn't look back. Some endings don't need closure. They just need silence. And as I drove home, windows down, the air felt clean again, light, final, free.